Welcome to the Renegade Lawyer Podcast, the show where we ask the questions, why aren't more lawyers living flourishing lives and inspiring others? And can you really get wealthy while doing only the work you love with people you like? Many lawyers are. Get ready to hear from your host, Ben Glass, the founder of the law firm Ben Glass Law in Fairfax, Virginia, and Great Legal Marketing, an organization that helps good people succeed by coaching, inspiring, and supporting law firm owners. Join us for today's conversation.
Hello, everyone. Instead of Ben interviewing someone, I am going to interview Ben because I remember last year around this time, we were talking about how it was just our biggest year ever. We were moving into a new space and everything was raucous and wild. And now here we are. Now it's our biggest year ever. I wanted to sit down with Ben, and he's here with me now to talk about this year. Ben, I'm looking forward to hearing your insights.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. As I said to my kids today, really November is this week. How could that be? Halloween is coming up. We just give candy out now. I don't have any who are still trick-or-treating except for the grandkids. But yeah, we're here at the end of the year. I'm just back from a Dan Kennedy conference. Dan is actually still with us. Of course, he wasn't at the conference, but Denver was 70 degrees to snowstorm to 40 degrees to second snowstorm. It's very interesting.
I'm glad you managed to make it back safe and sound. So let's just dive right in because honest to goodness, this has been a huge year. It's top of the year. Brian starts in the law firm. Your son, Brian, starts in the law firm. And we've made a lot of big moves since then. And a lot of people have heard you talk about one of the biggest things that we've done, which is EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. For those who haven't heard you talk about that in depth, I'd love for them to hear what you're doing with that and how that has progressed so far this year.
To back up just slightly, of course, Brian joined the firm in January, and 13 months ago, we had moved into this new space.
Yeah.
Brian brought with him a practice area that we weren't really doing, which was the lower end soft tissue automobile accident case. I had not wanted to be involved in that market, but Brian was making a lot of money in that market at his old firm. And he wanted to, as he put it, he saw the rocket ship was getting ready to launch because we were doing some other things really well, and he wanted to join that. So that's been great. And so he brought that practice area over and brought his top assistant. So that was wonderful. And then we unleashed Tiffany and the marketing, particularly the internet marketing. Tiffany, for those who don't know her, is an absolute wizard on attracting online leads and running Infusionsoft and monitoring the phone calls and all of that stuff. Once we unleashed Brian, one associate, Tiffany, Brian's assistant, in that practice area, it just exploded. And all of a sudden we realized we're outrunning our systems, actually.
Yeah,
so
that's been big this year.
Yeah. And that coupled with the fact that I'm on a plan to do less and less of the legal work. As I sit here today, I've got literally, I think, 2 cases that I have primary responsibility for. And to do more of the CEO work, we recognized that we didn't know what we didn't know, and we needed additional group training. And so we'll talk about that, about getting coaching yourself and getting coaching for your team. One of our mastermind members, Mark Breyer, had introduced us we actually introduced him to a book called Traction. He read it, showed us work he was doing in it. And so we went out and got an EOS Entrepreneur Operating System trainer who's local. It's not inexpensive, but what we have been doing is making our leadership team really good. And although we were decent at systems, we were outrunning our systems, and that creates chaos. Hence the summit we just came off of a few weeks ago, the Too Many Cases Summit. That was us.
Yes.
That was us. And the issue that we were solving this year. So we can talk a little bit about what's involved there. But as we sit here in the last quarter of the year, we have a firm that is running better than ever on system, on consistency, on everybody rowing the boat in the right direction, on a lot less just chaos, where literally, I swear to God, the first quarter of the year, there's a line outside my office every single day with people having questions like who's responsible for this and that I didn't know the answer to. And you don't need to know the answer to when you were small.
Yeah.
Couple that with the fact that we had 2 companies under one roof. It was chaos, but it was good chaos. My friend Clayton Mass, CEO of Infusionsoft, or Keep, buy him shoes off or whatever that. I talked to him a few years ago and he said, I had a lot of problems when I was starting out and I have a lot of problems now. I like these problems I have now better. Yeah. So that's what we've been doing through this year. And it's been wonderful, hard work, but wonderful. And getting ready, we've had our best year ever again. And there's no doubt now that 2020 will be the same.
Yeah. So with bringing on all those people, I was talking with Brian actually just earlier today, and we were projecting out for next year. And he was talking about the problem of when you're growing, expenses seem to be like a dog trying to catch the profit at the end of it all. So right now I would say that we're in another like entrepreneurial renaissance within the practice in terms of scaling up very rapidly.
Yeah.
How right now are we working towards handling that whole thing? How do you, as the owner of the firm, now I know that you're thinking about transition planning and stuff like that, with this now at
62 in February,
entering this new phase, looking at all this growth, mindset wise, and just operations wise, what are you doing differently?
Yeah, people should know 2018 profits were down because we spent this is a legal word, shit ton of money to build out this space.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And so the challenge in 2019, as revenues go up significantly, so have expenses. Your largest cost in any organization is the cost of human capital, right? Our team is really good right now. So just recognize that. So I think the biggest thing that we have worked on is, and we were good before, but not as good as we are now, is a couple things. One, wrapping our arms around the money flow, really understanding what each of the verticals, we have criminal law, we have long-term disability, which each of those verticals cost.
Yes.
Dividing up the overhead amongst the verticals, looking really carefully at the people that are in each of the verticals, looking really carefully in attributing, if we do some marketing that's specific for a vertical, and making sure that's charged against that vertical.
Yeah.
And then, of course, keeping track of where the money is coming from, because you can't do all of the rest of the stuff, which is, hey, putting a number on how much money, and we can talk about compensation schemes, how much money does Ben want to make in 2019 and in 2020 and 2021 and all of that stuff. You can't get to that number. Even if you get to that number, but you don't have a really good idea of where all the money is right now, it's really hard to know what to improve, how to measure. And we practice Kaizen, right? You make little changes across the whole board. So that's number one is getting more comfortable as our money flow got more complex, making sure we're ruthless about that. And your brother, who's our CFO and has a background actually trained in college in the finance world, has been really helpful with that. Brian, my son, is a great lawyer, but he's also a great business person, has been really helpful. This is my least best skill of all. And so they hand me little reports with the right numbers on it. And so that's been helpful. And then the other thing is really making each person in the organization accountable for their role in the organization. Again, if you can't say, hey, Tiffany, what is it you do here? What are you accountable for? If you don't have an answer for that, then Tiffany needs to go. Now, I just picked Tiffany's name not to pick on her, but
we actually know what Tiffany.
We actually know that because we worked on it under EOS. We worked on building out an accountability chart. They're not built out overnight. It takes several months. But now, the whole idea is that we've got a firm that more than any time in the past is run by the numbers, and is ruthlessly run by the numbers. And so we can make better projections going forward. We know when is it time to hire someone else, and when we're trying to hire in advance of need to. That's another thing that this year has brought us is we cannot wait until we need somebody to hire them. The talent pool there's a lot of people are employed, a lot of good people are employed.
Really,
so you got to steal them from somebody else. But you have to find good people in advance of the need. And that's always, I wouldn't say it's risky. It always generates some angst because you're spending money before it's coming in. And truth be told, this year in our practice, because we're a contingent fee firm and the explosion of leads, intakes, and cases signed, you don't get that money in 30 days, right? It's 6 months to 18 months for the vast majority of our cases. And so you not only have to hire in advance, but you have to spend money in advance. And we've done it totally bootstrap. We don't go out and borrow money, but that's what we've been spending time on. And so it's a long answer to your simple question, but especially with putting the right people on the leadership team.
Now, in the finances stuff, since it was your self-admitted weak point in this, I'm curious. So maybe it's because I was trained by you and everything, but for me, everything could be solved by sales and marketing, reactively how I go to. So fortunately, Joe has that stuff, Brian having that stuff. What within the finances, were there any numbers that you latched onto as being surprisingly useful? Anything revealed as you went through that process that other practice owners should really be aware of?
In EOS, they teach a fundamental known as the scorecard.
Mm-hmm.
And the scorecard are those numbers that if you were on a desert island and they could only send you like one slip of paper in a bottle, but you still wanted to run your business, like what numbers would you want to have?
Right.
And these are not trailing numbers. This is not last month's revenue because it only tells you what happened in the past.
Right.
They're numbers that predict issues in the future. So for example, we track number of new leads, number of contracts signed, number of demands sent out, and we have goals for each one of those categories. And there are other numbers, and we have 13-month running averages for each one. So we can see if some number is getting out of whack in advance. Now, you asked about anything that surprised you. Again, the whole concept of looking not at past revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What did we do last quarter? By the way, we know our revenue like to the day. Like we can look to yesterday, and everyone on our leadership team can see all of the numbers. And our leadership team everybody knows how much everybody makes, what sort of profit Ben wants and Brian wants. We'll talk about that. But those aren't the most important numbers. The most important numbers for us is basically the speed at which inventory moves, right? The time between the time that we sign someone and the time we get paid on their case. And so tracking things like how many people have finished treatment, but we don't have all the records yet. Why is that number getting bigger, right? Number should be getting smaller. We have all the records, we sent out a demand, but the case hasn't settled yet. Again, we want the number to be growing smaller, that time smaller. Now, this is all done. Look, we're really good at what we do, and clients are really well served. Clients like it, and they get their money faster. So we don't sacrifice any legal quality. I want to make that very clear. But we're not driven by emotion. We're driven by numbers, more and more driven straight up by numbers.
Actually, so let me ask you about that. When you have a leadership team like the one at Ben Glassall, where you have people managing different verticals and everything, you are inevitably have some level of egos competing, people looking for leadership positions, people looking for compensation, things like that. How does that get handled in that room, in the leadership meeting, when people are talking about, oh, I want this to be attributed to us, or that shouldn't be our, et cetera?
We have a promise to each other that, and I wanted to, because I've got the wording here.
So you're not solving it by night, to say the least.
No, we haven't yet. I don't have it. We have a promise to each other that we must have passionate disagreement, maybe isn't the right word. We must have passionate position taking. You can't walk out of a room having held back on a position that you advocate, because that's not fair to the rest of the leadership and it's not fair to the firm. We have a rule that if you have an idea and I ask you a question, it's not because I have an agenda. It's because I want to know honestly the answer to the question. I expect you will know the answer or know, how to go and get the answer. And we also know that leadership meetings can be uncomfortable meetings, and that if they're not uncomfortable, we're probably not doing it right, because we want people to advocate and to challenge and to fight for it. At the end of the day, I get to make the final decision as the owner, but the alternative is you have simmering, festering discontent in the ranks, and that's no good. Right. You can't be in that place either.
Having that level of radical honesty is difficult in business and in personal life too, whether you're engaged with a business partner or your life partner, but it's super valuable.
Yes, but most people don't live that way.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing we haven't talked about, but these meetings that we have are weekly.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, let's talk about the rhythm, because you've now gone through about 8 to 10 months, 2 months of experimenting, then about the last 8 months with an actual trainer. What's the rhythm so far? What's the rhythm going to look like next year?
Every week we have a 90-minute, that's called a level 10 meeting.
Why do they call it level 10?
Level 10 meaning at the end of the meeting, everyone has to rate the meeting. And if it's not rated as a 10, you have to say why. And we want every meeting to be a 10. there's criteria really for it to be a 10. And when I first heard, oh my gosh, you have to meet 90 minutes a meeting, which I hate meetings, but
You were in the midst of trying to get rid of all of your meetings.
I was. But now the meeting is better. I heard that 90 minutes a week, A, we won't have enough stuff to talk about. B, we'll get bored with each other. We'll fight. And none of that's true. It's every Thursday is 9:30, unless something really big. So last week I was in Denver. So we moved it up and had it on Tuesday. Outside of that, we've got a 2-day offsite retreat. It's only 5 members of the leadership team.
That's annual, correct?
That's an annual retreat. It's coming up in December. We've rented a house, Airbnb or something like that.
Going down to Lake Anna.
Going down to the lake near a nuclear reactor. So the water is supposed to be warm. December. The water is safe, they say. And we will be planting and setting flags in the ground for next year.
Right.
We've developed a 3-year, almost fully developed and fleshed out a 3-year program where we want to be. And so this retreat is really about what do we need to actually get done in 2020 to get there. And again, there's a lot of ideas that get put on the board, a lot of debate and massaging and pushing and shoving. But what will arise out of that is the most important things that we have to accomplish or movements we have to initiate in order to achieve our goals. Outside of that, next year we'll have 3 quarterly. So these are 1 day. We do them in-house because we've got a training center here, but we do close the doors. We have lunch brought in. No one can be on their cell phone. No one's doing business. No one's coming in to interrupt us. And at the beginning of EOS, you have a couple of onboarding days where you really are, your trainer is getting a sense of where the company or the firm in our case is and setting the direction. Our trainer is really good. He knows his stuff really well. And it's not rocket science, but I would say it's a lot of work, but highly valuable.
So one of the things I was touched on earlier, I know that's probably going to be part of the discussion because you're looking at not like handing out it, but having equity stakes sold. And so there's talk about the ownership shares versus management shares. I know we're early in the process, but I know members would probably love to hear about how that's going to be handled, what your thought process is, and maybe the general sketch of what that might look like.
Sure. It's a great question. At the level of the attorneys who work for you, who are non-equity owners in the firm, our modus operandi is, here's the numbers. Here's how we make money. Here's how much I'm taking. How much money do you want to make?
So you're telling the owner, you're telling the lawyer how much you are taking home and why maybe, hey, you own it.
Okay, so let me correct this. Like in the leadership, everybody knows all those percentages. Okay. But if I'm talking to a non-equity lawyer who knows how money flows through the firm at risk, kind of cases we get, average case value, how many cases we get settled a month, how many big cases do we have? My question is, how much money do you want to make? Oh, I don't know. Bad answer. I can't help you. If you don't know how much money you want to make, I can't help you, right? Oh, I want to make X. I want to make 150, 200, 250,000. Great. Here's what I need you to do. I need to figure out how you're going to do it, right? Because here's how many cases you get. Here's the average value. Here's the overhead. Here's what it costs. Boom, boom. And so you're engaging people who want to make significant amounts of money, gauging them in the process. It's a two-way street. And one of the things Sammy Chong has taught me over the last couple of years is I don't need to know the answer to any of these questions. I just think terrific. Show me how we do that. Yep. Show me how we both do that. That's how we do it for lawyers. Down to the team level, the staff level, what we've done this year is worked on really being a little bit more consistent. So we've got salaries for a paralegal 1, a paralegal 2, maybe someone with no paralegal experience, whoever is answering the phone. Different sort of categories of salaries. But one of the things we did do is we said to those team members, hey, when we do well, what do you want? Like, do you want to go trips? Do you want money? Do you want days off? They wanted money, right? But I've heard different answers from different people. They want cash. That's cool. Great. And so we're empowering. I like to try to empower people. I want this to be the best place they work, but I want great people here. And when you have great people working in the best place they've ever worked, you get great productivity. And there was something else I was I know. So here's a little Here's a little thing that we just did, which is amazing. The swag box showed up. We have new shirts and sweatshirts and coats and all that sort of stuff.
4 out of 5 GLM team members had theirs on today.
And this, in the whole scheme of things, we're talking hundreds of dollars, maybe 1,500 of those dollars. I don't know what it was, but it's not a lot of money compared to other things that people would think. And they wear it. I've got notes all day from team members saying, "Oh, thank you for this stuff." And so our rule is, if you'll wear it and it has my name on it, I'll buy as many as you want. There you go. You just got to wear it. You can't hang it in the closet and leave it. So it's just a little thing that's a win deal with staff. Point is, not everyone is motivated strictly by money. We also ask them, what do you all want to do for holiday party? Oh, now what firm has ever said, what do you guys want to do? And they said, we didn't ask that question. We said, what do you guys want to do? You tell us what you want to do. And it's just amazing. They came back. They want to have the party here. They want to be able to turn the phones off. They want to have a crazy sweater. To me, I was ready till we could all fly to New York or something. Have dinner together. But they don't. If you have good folks, just ask them what they want. I guess they're going to veto something outrageous, but they always underplay that.
Yeah. And even if they give you like the small ball idea, and it isn't necessarily what they would have gotten excited of if you had originally proposed that to, because they came up with like, oh, it was our idea after all.
So that's how we're approaching compensation. We try to bank money for bonuses and stuff, but this all starts, I know the percentage of profit that the partners want to get out of the firm. So we start there, and we are just, again, more ruthless with knowing our numbers and holding everyone to be accountable for their numbers.
Speaking of people that we have, you've often said, and many other leaders in our overall space have said, the people who get you here are not necessarily people who get you there. In this process, in this move from the kitchen table version of both businesses to the scaled up and scaling up professional versions, we've seen turnover. How are we handling that? What's that?
Yeah. So when it's involuntary turnover, that's hard.
Yes.
Like firing people or telling them this is no longer the best place for them is always hard. It's probably always harder in my own head than it actually turns out to be for everybody. We had a State of the Union address here a couple of months ago, and I said, how many people worked here in January? And about half the room actually raised their hand. That's in part because we actually have more people here, right?
Yes.
Remember, we moved in here a year ago. We had so much space. We thought we could have a basketball court, right? And now we're negotiating for space upstairs because we actually have outgrown the space that we're in.
Oh, and you're going to love this. When we were up there, the 3,000 square feet, Brian opened up the conversation. Should we start the extra at 400?
I know. That doesn't surprise me. I forgot what question I was. People. Yeah. And you have done a great job in creating a hiring system for us that patiently puts the bait in the water for the right person to come along, patiently waits for that person to come along. And as the ones who aren't perfect for it come along, we don't jump at them and take them. And I think in every case this year, the replacements, if you want to call them that, are better than the people that left. And that's what you want it to be. I truly want to surround myself with people who are smarter about all this than I am. And let me just be the visionary and think about big ideas and big relationships, which is really what my job is now, of the two companies, of the law firm and Great Legal Marketing. It makes it easier when you know who is accountable for what, and when you can, as best you can, in essence, monetize every seat on the bus.
Yeah.
We're not running a charity. We're running a business. I'm the one that has taken the risk right now. Although, as you said, Brian is going to purchase a portion of the firm in January, but it's my name on all of the obligations.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I need the very best people that I can go out and get. We upped our benefits this year. I think our salary packages are good. I think the opportunities to make money here are good. Certainly the work environment is, I think, second to none. I get people running around in Benglass law sweatshirts and they're happy.
I'll tell you, when I interview people, a lot of times, one of the most common questions I get when I ask them, hey, what questions do you have for me, is they ask me what it's like to work here. And the worst part about telling my own story to them is I see the look on their face at the end. that all that they're saying through their eyes is, please hire me. I want that.
Yeah. And I think we should point out that your system is so good that I meet people on their first day of employment.
Yeah.
I don't interview. Unless I happen to pass them in the hall, I don't interact with them in any of the several pre-interviews that they'll come into.
And massive credit also to the department heads.
Yeah.
The fact that they now have taken that system, plugged in their individual needs where I don't have to be involved in that either. And like always happens, they've made it better. They continue to make it better and refine it for their individual needs. And I love seeing that.
Hey guys, this is Ben. If you like what you've been hearing on this podcast, not just the marketing and practice building strategies, but the philosophy of the art of living your best life parts, you should know that my son Brian and I have built a tribe of like-minded lawyers who are living lives of their own design and creating tremendous value for the world within the structure of a law practice. We invite you to join us at the only membership organization for entrepreneurial lawyers that is run by 2 full-time practicing attorneys. Check us out at greatlegalmarketing.com.
When you think about it, so the new employees, so we're currently looking for a lawyer to do ERISA work.
Yeah.
I think we just hired.
We have the offer out. We're waiting to hear back. She may be scared off by the interview with her.
Another marketing assistant. But these people aren't really, they're working for me because it's Ben Glass Law.
Yeah.
But they're not working directly for me. They're working for the department heads. And so, for example, in our ERISA long-term disability department, that's headed by a non-lawyer. Awesome, Ellen, that many people have met. The lawyer that we hire has to be really comfortable by getting directed and, quote, bossed around by someone who's not a lawyer,
right?
But who knows more than 99.99% of lawyers in the country about these types of cases. And it's better that I'm not involved in the process because they're going to have to work with Ellen and with Olivia and with Audrey on that team. So yeah, we can tell one funny story. We were interviewing a couple of months ago for a paralegal position, and the lawyers were ready to hire this woman, this prospect. She had just left after an interview or lunch or something here. And the rest of the team, the other paralegals came up and go, we need to have a word with you. Oh, what about? You cannot hire. Oh, she didn't treat the receptionist well. She was snapping selfies of herself while she's waiting, and the waiting room, just weird stuff. And they got weird vibes. And they basically said, you won't hire her. And to our credit, leadership's credit, we're like, there's no hesitation. Yes. No way we're arguing against that.
Yeah.
And the person we hired is back.
Yes. That happens fairly often where you can fall in love with a person. It's why we always talk about multi-layer. You dropped in a little thing about how your role has changed and how you are spending more time being creative, which I know for some people, when they think about, if I just spend an hour, quote unquote, being creative, have I wasted my time?
Yeah. And so let me see if I can find that quote.
From Rocket Fuel.
Yeah. It was from Rocket Fuel, which basically says, so part of my problem is I've often felt, or these days, I often feel guilty because I'm actually sitting in my office, not handling a whole lot of cases and not filing stuff and all that. And I get on the phone with Sammy and I go, I don't know, man, maybe I'm irrelevant. But then I came across this paragraph from the book Rocket Fuel, which is one of the books in the Traction EOS series. And it's describing me. It says the visionary, that's who I am, may also experience a phenomenon we call visionary remorse. After letting go of some tasks they've held for a long time, like handling all the cases, sometimes the visionary feels they've been put out to pasture. The first year will likely bring turbulence. Absolutely. Your new position will certainly feel different for you. Absolutely. You may feel you've lost a part of your identity. That's true. And simply aren't contributing at the same level as you have for years. Many entrepreneurs busted their ass for 30 years, has worked hard and contributed a lot. Rocket Fuel goes on, this is clearly not the case. You should rationally know that you are now in a position to contribute at an even higher level in a way for which you are uniquely suited. This trough usually lasts 6 to 12 months. And then I guess I just get over it. But I was just in Denver for the Dan Kennedy event. So I flew out to Denver, and they said on Wednesday, I flew back late Saturday night. And while I was there, I talked to one client for 20 minutes in a case that actually the case settled while I was there. My team settled it for $2 million, but I had a 20-minute conversation with a client. I had a 20-minute conversation with Brian just about business management stuff. And I spent 15 minutes answering email. 15 minutes. Yep. Not 15 minutes every day, 15 minutes. And the point there is I have become irrelevant to the nuts and bolts of the cases. And that's the goal, because in Denver, the very first night, I just was introduced to a great idea, I think, and brought it back all excited and had a meeting with Tiffany about it. But it has to do with strengthening a relationship with our physician and healthcare referral sources. And that's worth more than, I think it will be worth more than me spending time working on cases there. It's not that they're not getting work done, it's that they're getting work done by other people. And I know this makes some people uncomfortable, because it still makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And it made me, and there was a time when I thought, how in the world would it ever be appropriate for me to not be working on cases? After all, clients come to me wanting me to do their work. Guess what? They actually don't.
As an entrepreneurial lawyer, you have two separate huge engines running at all times that are part of your identity. One, as a lawyer, you think of doing cases, working with clients, doing the actual legal work. So there's one identity. Then the entrepreneur is a unique person who has decided to shoulder all this responsibility and say, I'm going to drive forward a slice of our economy. And I'm going to carve out a piece for myself.
Yes.
And the big pride is you're going in and saying, this is my slice. I will grow it as I see fit. I will bear responsibility for it, which most people never live out that lifestyle. Those two huge identities that you're partially having to say, okay, I'm not always doing the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the lawyer thing.
Yeah. And so it's perfectly okay to have a practice. And I did for many years, which is little more than it's a job and I'm the boss and I'm the producer, the direct producer of everything.
Lots of numbers start there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some that probably that's okay, but that's no longer really fulfilling for me, because we're in a position, first of all, we're good at what we do. We're actually really good at what we do. The legal services we provide are top notch. And we're in a position where we can help more people with excellent services through the business that I've created and worked very hard to develop. And it's good for everybody. When my employees don't worry about, am I going to get fired because we ran out of money, right? They're like, how many sweatshirts? Yeah, really? You can have three? You can have three sweatshirts?
Can I fill my wardrobe to bank
You can have three sweatshirts. Again, the deal is you got to wear it. If I buy it for you, you got to wear it. And being comfortable with that, you actually serve more clients better. And at the end of the day, that's really what we do. So we're affecting, not only do I affect the 16 or 17 employees and their families to what they earn here, what their benefits are, but we affect a lot of clients and even people that we don't accept their case, we still help them in some way.
Now, right now, probably some people listening, this sounds like the rosier version of reality.
Yeah.
There's a classic question, which is going back, whatever distance in time, maybe a year, maybe 5 years. What would you actually do differently? What do you know now that you wish you had known then?
Yeah. So we've talked one thing already is it's getting better. Well, we're getting someone who understands numbers and who has a greater mess with numbers than I do. But the other thing is, if you go back maybe more, because we've actually been doing this for more than 5 years, but is getting people like you not only to work for me, but then to go. So usually you would have come to Denver with me, but you just got back from a different event that we sent you to out in
Phoenix.
And so having your people who are in charge at the first level with the marketing, because that's what people tend to be most concerned about. How do I make my marketing better? Having your support team or your marketing team really up to speed. So when, again, we were in Kennedy's Titanium group a few years ago, we went together.
Yep.
And then when there were events that I couldn't get to, I sent you.
Yep.
And we sent Tiffany out to MozCon. We sent Colin out to Infusionsoft, right? And not think that you're the only one that can or should understand the marketing is very important. And even in the EOS is a pretty significant investment. This year we spent over $130,000, not just in EOS alone, but in all of the coaching that I have for me personally, for my leadership team. They have personal coaching, some of them with Sammy, to the group coaching. So the EOS is, again, it's not just the leader understanding how to run a law firm better, but it's the leadership team understanding. So now we have 5 people with ears on and doing the work of running the firm. So that's what I would do. That's what I would have done faster knowing today what I know. In our world, what you have, Charlie, have really helped build is things like the Elite Marketing Director Camp and the events that you hold where not just lawyers are coming, but in some case, you have one coming up, right?
Yeah. It's all marketing
Marketing
directors, 7 marketing directors,
Yeah.
small group. We're going to be doing hot seats with them, the whole kit and caboodle, because, and I guess I'm previewing this for you as well as anyone listening, that we're going to have more non-lawyer events coming down the pipe, some training and stuff like that, in addition to obviously a lot more stuff for the lawyers themselves.
And when they come, we make it fun. We take them out to dinner, and
We're doing a Krav Maga self-defense class with the marketing directors.
perfect. Make sure they sign the
Fingers, man.
releases. But yeah, and so we have a fair number of members who came to the summit earlier this month, brought marketing team members, marketing directors. So that's what I would do. I think it's simply too much. It is a ton for just the owner to be producing legal services still, to now craft the marketing. I sat down when I was in Denver. I was sitting at one of the things that was on Facebook.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. And texting going, I assume knows all this
More
stuff.
on top of it.
So it's too much for any one person to absorb and then be able to go back out and teach. By the way, anybody, as we're chatting, anybody wants to ask a question of Charlie or me, you can hit *2 and we'll see. Happy to try to answer the question.
So it's *2 on your mobile device or handset to ask a question. So what's the next stage for you? What are you focusing on? What as you're both transitioning even higher into the CEO visionary role, what do you want?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have high needs. So a bunch of my friends in Denver, they go on 5 trips a year to very exotic places. I want to be healthy. I want to referee games. I want to be able to come into my big corner office here and think about market domination. And our next stage, this isn't public yet, except for this call, but Brian's going to be purchasing a big chunk of the firm, and we have a very decent valuation. So that'll be good for me and also be good for him. I do want market domination. I do like to be like the Jeff Bezos. So certainly have Arissa. We do dominate the market in that area, jurisdiction. And we've got a really good general personal injury practice. It's cool. I have to say a funny story that I'm walking in the hall today, and this woman who I don't recognize, but she's somebody who knows me, my hall. And she comes up to me and she's, "Oh, Ben, I feel like I've known you forever. I've watched your kids grow. I know all of your stories." And I had no idea who she was, but she's a maven. She's one of our mavens. And she had dragged one of her friends in here who's been injured. So she was meeting with Brian and just bragging about us to her friend. That's what I want to be. See, I want to be the guy who influences and inspires other lawyers in particular, but also all of our clients to Disney is the happiest place on earth, right? To inspire them that this is a really cool place, whether you're coming here to work, whether you're coming here to be a client, whether you're dragging one of your friends here because you're an ace referral source. We want this to be a really cool place. I do want to get to the point where, and so we're in the search for another lawyer. I do want to get to the point where I'm the advisor in the corner on the legal things. Come to the old man in the corner, give you some tips on the case. And we just want to continue to grow our influence, actually.
Or a lawyer who is first starting to think about, I want to become the CEO. How do they start communicating that to people there? Because it's going to be easier when you're bringing in new people. How do you communicate to people there?
I think they got to communicate to themselves first, right? Because it is a discipline and it is a commitment. Yeah, that's a good question. So for the lawyer who has been in the trenches doing for so many years, I would say, first of all, recognizing your own head, that's where you should be, and you can move to there, and it's good for the employees.
Yeah.
I guess you'll find some that maybe don't approve or think that's a good idea. They'll be the ones that don't get you to the next level because they're out working for somebody else, and that's okay. I think that what we have done a really good job at is empowered the team. Look, again, I don't look at the new hires until you hire them. I don't approve all the swag stuff. They do. I don't look at the holiday party. They do. And so when we do good training and we hire good people and we empower them to be leaders and entrepreneurs. I mean, our goal is that the team that we have working for us now will be the managers of teams working under them in a couple of years. So we have huge, I think, growth goals. We're going to get to our 5-year, 3 and 5 and 10-year vision. And so you do that by, you act like this is your firm. You have my trust. Now, that's all built on training. It's built on hiring the right people. And it's built on ruthless monitoring of their numbers. It doesn't mean that we're sloppy. We're the opposite of sloppy.
There's lots of spreadsheets.
There's lots of spreadsheets now that I can evaluate you on, but also give you the flexibility. As I said, how much money do you want to make? Great. This is how much money you're making now with these types of cases, this type of lead flow, this type of conversions of leads to clients, this number of settlement demands we're getting out. Great. So in order to get to 3X, guess what has to happen? 3X salary means we're going to get to 3X of these numbers. I need your input on how we get there. And I empower you to be a leader to help me get there.
Ooh, selfish question for everyone who we may have some marketing directors listening and everything. A lot of times when those things come up where they're talking about, okay, we're doing, let's say 500,000 in this department. Yeah. That person wants to 3X it. That means we got to get to 1.5 million. Sometimes that gets leaned onto the marketing department. How does that step? How do you manage that big relationship?
Yeah, I guess it starts with the marketing department, right? But the marketing department has to have the trust that the sales conversion department and the production department is all working.
And then the finance department yells at everyone.
The finance department yells at everyone. But look, but all I'm asking the marketing department to do is to produce 3X. So if I say to Tiffany, we need 3X the number of leads, Tiffany then turns to the team, say in the ERISA vertical, and goes, all right, I need more content from you. I need meetings with you to let me know what issues you're seeing. I need to know what questions clients and prospects are asking on the phones so that I can go out to write more attractive copy. I need to know what doctors are involved in your cases so that we can do reach out to these doctors and say, wow, thanks for your referrals, even if they've never referred, right? Would you like to come in for a podcast? So when you're accountable for marketing, but you're empowered, you don't just sit there and wait for Ben to tell you what to do, right? You think about ways to get the other people on the team to help you. And the same thing, the people in the verticals go to the marketing department and go, we need more cases. I've got some ideas, right? And it's great. And Ben isn't involved in any of these conversations.
Yeah.
They come to me usually to tell me what they have already done, which is an awesome place to be. It doesn't mean it's perfect by any means, right? We still make mistakes. That's the other thing. When you go through high growth periods, you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to fall through the cracks. People have to know that they're allowed to make mistakes. Quote, failures aren't anything but just one more piece of information on the dial. And if you're going to empower people, then you can't get mad at them when they're taking, I think, reasonable and rational steps to move and have a good reason for things that they did. They got to understand ethics. They have to understand what we can and can't say.
That's important.
Well, that's important, but it's part of our training.
Yeah.
I like to say we teach people not only what to do, but why we do it in a certain way. And they're enthused. And we pretty much can figure out if we made a mistake in hiring. Everyone's comes here, I think, on a 90-day probationary period anyway. I think we've been pretty good with picking. You've been great at finding the right people.
Credit, and really at this point, I will throw all the credit to the department heads because for the last month, they've done that process on their own. They use the system that we built, but that's the real pride and joy is to have built the system and now see other people using it.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea is that you build a system that then people can come in and run the system until someone has an idea for a tweak that makes for a better system.
Yeah. Ellen owns it for that LTD department. Brian owns it for the PI department. It all makes sense.
Because they all want to make more money. Yeah. They all want to make more money. And both the people you mentioned are on leadership. All right, great. Yeah. Figure it out. And that's so much more liberating than in the past when it was Ben trying to figure all of that out. That's really, lawyers will be hesitant about how much they disclose to team. And there's different levels of disclosure and different levels that you'll be comfortable with. I get all that. I only say if it's a total top-down directed organization where you're just bossing people around, that's just a recipe for average, I think. The mastermind members, the top diamond members that we have, I think have an attitude of we're actually building a team, like a sports team where we like each other, where we hold each other accountable, and where when we have issues with each other, we bring them to the table face to face. When you did this, I felt this, or I think, we don't let that crap fester, right? That's just the worst. Anyway, we have 6 more minutes. Again, if anyone has a question about any of this, you could hit *2. Talk to us a little bit. I think our mastermind group for next year is either full or almost full.
We're on the brink. I think we have 2 spaces absolute max. We have someone who has an application in that we're just finalizing things on. So it may be down to 1 space, but gosh, it's been an incredible group. And we had nearly everyone from last year re-up.
Yeah.
So it's a packed house, legitimately.
And a couple of folks at the conference at the summit.
Yeah.
So sign on. Okay. We've got Cincinnati, Ohio. I can't see a name associated with it. Who is this?
Steve Adams.
Steve, how are you?
Hey, good. Ben, how are you doing?
We are good. I must be 70 degrees outside. It's still sunny. I can't believe it's almost November.
Good. Here's my question, and I want to piggyback off what you do to make other people within your firm be the man, because when you write statewide book for lawyers and you are all over the radio and radio talk show people are saying, stop by the man, call the man. And that's me, Steve Adams. And everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have my cell phone in their phone if they get charged with a crime or a DUI. And I'm buying into your system to where I need to scale my practice back to scale the business up. And I have excellent lawyers. I just hired a new one that's going to start in 2 weeks. And she was highly recommended by, ironically, prosecutors and judges. So I know I got the right person. And I'm reading over marketing director resumes and things like that. But how do you convince a client when they think that I'm the man to hire an associate or a limited partner? How would I have to do that? Because people think that I'm the go-to guy. How do I persuade them otherwise?
All right. So here's the ego busting pin I'm going to stick in your bubble, because it's the same one that I stuck in my own balloon, right, years ago, which is we think that's true as the lawyer, as the leader. We may even hear it from clients. It's Ben Glass law. I never hear it anymore because I have promoted the Ben Glass trained team, right? These are people that have all been trained by me. And if you think about what you just said, if that was 100% true, and again, I at one time believed it was true, Steve. If it was 100% true, then I would be the one expected to work every single part of the case. And so the language I use, and then I'm giving you one other thing, because I know you do a criminal defense practice, right? The language I often used when I was in client meetings, and I'm rarely in a client meeting in the PI, almost never, is that you're going to have lots of questions as come up with the case. And I'm the last guy to ask these questions about that sort of stuff. I'm the strategist in the case. Susie's going to know about medical records and all that stuff. And so constantly promoting your team. For example, we have not just pamphlets that doesn't give them justice, but we've got printed materials on each of the team members. But the thing that the criminal defense lawyers can do is, hey, you want the Steve Adams, that's a 2.5x fee, right? And you want this great former prosecutor just joined my firm, who I handpicked, who was referred to me by X number of lawyers and judges and prosecutors, who is awesome. And we are so happy that he or she is here in the firm. Then that's a fee of X, right? What you will find is if you will get up, Steve, and cheerlead for these people that are on your team, you will discover to yours and my ego deflation, right? That the people, the consumer really doesn't care. They expect, because they're going into their doctor's offices, right? They see their doctor for 5 minutes. They see the nurse practitioner and the physician's assistant, right? And they don't have any problem with that. I would suggest to you, as I learned, it's more about what goes on inside your head than their head. And And then once you do it and get a taste of it, it's liberating, right? And when you can sit in your in their corner office, as I do, and meet and greet people who are walking down the hall going, oh my God, that's Steve Adams. Wow. I've been following you for years. Oh, thank you for coming in to say hello, which is what happened to me this afternoon. A lady walking down my hall. I'm like, this is awesome. Brian's going to take great care of you. So that's where I shop. The other thing is, giving people your cell phone. I don't know how you do it. Maybe we'll get you on a call. You can do a coaching call on how many people actually use it and how you live with it. That's a very hard time management tool if people have your cell phone number and you're the one that's answering it.
They love it when I answer it. They're like, is this you? I can't believe you answered. And it goes out on every radio commercial.
You can come give that teaching on that. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. We're right up
done.
Thank you, everybody, for getting on today's call. Again, we're coming to the end of the year. If you have questions about the mastermind group, reach out. To you have questions about anything else we do. If you're getting ready to sign a big contract for some marketing vulture, please contact us first. We'll look over your shoulder and help you make the right decisions.
And Ben, thank you for sharing your wisdom on this call. This was fun.
Yeah, this was good.
If anyone else would like us to do something like that again in the very near future, send an email to myself or Ben chiming in about that, because at the very least, I enjoyed this fact-finding mission.
All right, everyone. Thank you. We'll talk to you again next month. Bye-bye.
If you like what you just heard on the Renegade Lawyer Podcast, you may be a perfect fit for the great legal marketing community. Law firm owners across the country are becoming heroes to their families and icons in their communities. They've gone renegade by rejecting the status quo of the legal profession so they can deliver high-quality legal services coupled with top-notch customer service to clients who pay, stay, and refer. Learn more at greatlegalmarketing.com. That's greatlegalmarketing.com.